The courtroom opens with Judge Vonda B. introducing her guest. The atmosphere is calm, but there's a sense of tension beneath the surface. Myron Johnson sits ready to share his story. His tone is respectful, but heavy. He's about to reveal how child support changed his life forever.
In the early 2000s. So, yeah, I have an interesting story about a child support.
Okay, all right. So tell us about it. Start us off. How did we get to the child support situation exactly?
Well, a friend of mine, we were close friends. We used to mess around, and we ended up having a kid together.
Okay. How long did you all mess around, per se?
I would say for a couple of years. We was friends. She went off to college, and so I was still here. So we would connect during the summertime, and we established a friendship before we even had a kid. And then,
is that what people call the lovers and friends type situation?
Yeah, I guess.
Okay.
I worked. Like I said, I worked in radio, so she felt like I was moving around a lot.
All right.
So we didn't do the girlfriend, boyfriend generic thing. And so we ended up having a kid together, and I ended up getting on child support in a way that I don't think most people are aware of.
Okay. So let me back you up a little bit. The two of you were messing around.
Mm-hmm.
You all had a friendship.
Mm-hmm.
She ends up pregnant. You all have a child.
Correct.
At the time that the child was born, when, if at all, did you sign a birth certificate, or did you have a DNA test? What was the story behind that?
So what happened was after we had the baby, I claimed him on my first income tax.
Okay.
I was audited, and so I basically had to prove that he was my son.
Okay.
And so one of the fastest ways to do that, if you're not already on child support, is to sign an acknowledgement of paternity.
Okay.
So I signed an acknowledgement of paternity. I actually drove it to Austin. They did everything in like a day.
Myron explains how his friendship with a woman led to an unexpected child. No relationship title, no traditional family, just two people connected by circumstance. But from this friendship came a life-altering responsibility. Already, the cracks begin to show in this story of trust and consequences.
So I got the birth certificate, was able to send it to my taxes, and then boom, I got my taxes. So it was nothing to think about at that time because I had no reason to suspect that he wasn't my child when I signed the acknowledgement of paternity. And so
let me ask you a question about that acknowledgement of paternity, because and you'll have to forgive me, we abbreviate things a lot, AOP,
okay.
all right?
AOP, yeah.
Did you know at the time you signed the acknowledgement of paternity what that actually meant?
I guess I should say yes and no.
Okay. What do you mean by yes and no?
Because at the time, I felt I didn't know that it could possibly hold, basically, even if you find out that you're not the father, that it would still hold you legally responsible for that child. And so that's the part that I didn't know, and I think the reason why I didn't.
He recalls signing an acknowledgement of paternity. It seemed simple, a legal shortcut to claim his child for taxes. But hidden in that signature was a lifelong bond, one that bound him legally even if the truth proved otherwise. Myron admits he didn't fully understand the weight of what he signed.
I know that is because I didn't go into it thinking that what ended up happening would have happened.
All right.
Meaning, when I signed it, I was 100% sure that my son was my son.
Okay. Now, you mentioned something about another child.
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact what your beliefs were about the child, Myron Morrell Johnson Jr., right?
Mm-hmm.
How did that impact your feelings about signing that acknowledgement of paternity?
In the beginning, I had my second son look identical to me.
Okay.
And so there was a few people, family included, that never really believed that Myron Morrell Johnson Jr. was even my child.
The judge presses him. Did he know the risk? That even if the child wasn't his, the law could still hold him responsible? Myron's voice reveals regret. He was certain the boy was his, certain enough to ignore the whispers of doubt even from his own grandmother. Family suspicion lingered, but Myron chose pride over proof.
Even my grandmother. And so, I never would go take a DNA test because I felt like I wasn't going to prove to somebody else that my child is mine.
That was my next question. Why didn't you act on that when someone like your grandmother, I'm assuming you have a close relationship with her?
I did.
Okay, all right. And this person is telling you this, why not act on it?
I don't know. I don't know if it was because that was my first son and I didn't, my mom was attached. I don't know. There's a lot of emotions that go through that. You know what I'm saying? But the main one was that I wasn't gonna prove to my family that somebody I felt like was my child was mine.
Right. He was gonna be yours regardless.
Regardless.
Okay.
Right. And so,
So this other child comes into the play, looks just like you. What was going through your mind at that time?
At the time, still just now I got two sons. So initially it was nothing. Funny thing.
Then came another son. This boy looked exactly like Myron, sparking deeper questions about the first child's true parentage. Family members raised doubts, but Myron refused a DNA test. He wanted no one to question his love. To him, fatherhood wasn't a matter of paperwork or blood. It was loyalty.
The thing is that she, which is Myron's mother, is the one who kind of brought it about. She asked me a question like, it was something to the point that, do I wish that, and my other son's name is Jai, by the way.
Okay.
Do I wish Jai was born first and he had, like if he was a junior?
Okay.
It was just weird. It was just.
That is a weird question. I haven't spoken to her to say what her intentions were, but it sounds like she asked that question because your second son looked just like you.
Looked just like me, my family. It was at Lil Myron's birthday party, to be exact, because she had went out and bought both of the boys like matching outfits.
Okay. And how old were the boys at this time?
4 and 3.
Okay.
Because they're only like, not even a full year apart. But,
okay.
Or they're right at a year apart. But yeah, so that happened, and then that started creating.
But doubt has a way of growing. Eventually, Myron's partner herself asked a strange question: if he wished his other son had been the first, the true junior. That odd remark planted the seed. Soon, Myron could no longer ignore the possibility. He needed answers, even if those answers destroyed him.
A little doubt. Not the doubt like I thought Lil Myron wasn't mine, but more so like now I had to be sure,
Now you had to get the DNA testing.
Now I had to do it. And so
what happened next? Did you get the DNA testing?
Not instantly. It took a couple of months after that, maybe 6 to 8 months. And then we eventually had several different conversations about how we were going to go about doing a DNA test. So I asked if she would go half with me on it. And she
How expensive are DNA tests exactly?
Oh, man. I think we paid about $2 something.
Okay.
They're probably a little cheaper now because it's, you can go to the store and get them, but we went to a reputable location in Fort Worth and did it, and we waited on the results.
Okay.
The DNA test was done. Days passed in silence. Myron tried to stay calm, but anxiety grew. And then, the call. The results were undeniable. He was not the father. Shock, betrayal, disbelief. Myron pulled his car to the side of the road, his entire identity as a father crashing in one phone call.
How did you feel waiting on those results?
Again, to be honest with you, I didn't get anxious until like later on, because a week had passed, and they said it'd take about a week. And my little cousin was, jokingly telling me to call and find out, and I didn't want to do that.
Is it for the same reason as to why you didn't want to do the DNA testing? You didn't want to have to prove anything to your family members?
On that one, I think I had got to that point where I was unsure. I was scared. I didn't know what was I gonna do if it come back. If it come back mine, I'm good. Whatever. But then I had to start thinking about what if he wasn't mine, and that's emotions in itself. And so we finally ended up doing the DNA test. I went out of town for like a week to Atlanta, and I came back, and then I got the worst news probably ever in my life.
Okay, so let's talk about that day. And I understand that this may trigger some emotions for you, but let's just go back in time to that day. Where were you exactly? I know you said you were working out of town.
Well, I had came back from out of town. The day I found out that he wasn't mine,
Yes.
It was, I want to say it was March the 23rd, 24th, 2009.
I can imagine a date like that, you wouldn't forget it.
Yeah. It was my little cousin's birthday, so I think the 23rd. So I had followed up. I did what she told me to do because I hadn't got my test results back yet. And so
when you say followed up with what she said to do,
she
by
was like,
calling the
by
facility?
calling them, just
Okay.
calling the facility. And so I ended up, I was on, at the time I was on 161 in Irving. And I called. And so the lady, she asked me a bunch of information, you know.
He confronted the child's mother only to learn she already knew. She had called before him, received the same news, and kept it hidden. That betrayal cut deeper than the test itself. Their friendship shattered. Trust was gone, replaced with anger and unanswered questions.
To tell me that she asked me if I was sure I wanted the results over the phone. So now I'm laughing because I'm like, well, yeah, like, you know. And so she gave them to me. And she was like, in the case of Myra Morrell Johnson Jr., Myra Morrell Johnson Sr. is like 98.6% not the father, like basically. So I like, you know, I'm thinking it's a full 100 or it's whatever.
And you're driving at this point.
I'm driving. And so I merged over to just kind of ask. I heard her the first time, but you know, I just asked her to confirm it. And she told me again, she was like, yeah, there's no chance that that you're the father. And when she said it again, I was like, I just hung up. And
in that moment, did you know that, you know what, this is what I probably thought all along, but I didn't want to face it? Or were you in total disbelief?
Nah, I was really in total disbelief. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, it was never, I didn't take the DNA test with the intention of him not being mine.
All right.
You know, by that time, because at that time I wasn't on child support yet. And so I was just shocked. Actually, I take it back. Actually, I was on child support because that was the idea that I was trying to fight to. All I wanted to do was get off of child support.
After the
After
results
I found out,
came
yeah, because I wanted to stay in his life and I wanted to, you know, I was hurt, you know, by finding out he wasn't mine, but I still wanted to, because he was getting ready to turn 5, so I was all he knew. And he got my whole name, so it was like, yeah, he's not my child, but I've been raising him like mine, but I didn't want to be held legally responsible at the time. And so
Okay.
that's when that AOP came back to, you know, bite me.
Okay. Let me ask you this. How was that conversation with the mom after you found out what the results were?
Well, you know, like, to be honest with you, she didn't do what I thought she would have done in that sense, because to be honest with you, she had already called and found out.
How did you find that out?
Because later on that evening, after me and her, after I, you know, I'm pretty sure I said some not so good things to her or whatever. And that next day later on that night, she ended up telling me that she had already called and got the results, like that morning.
Oh, wow.
So when I got the results, I was calling her at work, and basically at the time she was telling them to tell me like she was unavailable. Like she was at work, but she was busy. And she was.
Still, Myron clung to his bond with the boy. He had raised him for 5 years, given him his full name. Love doesn't vanish overnight. But the court saw things differently. Myron wanted only to end the financial responsibility. He wasn't walking away as a father, just fighting to be free of a system that wouldn't let go.
Like doing nursing or something at the time, so that wasn't weird. Okay. But the fact that she hadn't called me back, and I had called a couple of times, that was weird. And so my anxiety grew because I'm thinking like, I'm not gonna lie, I thought she just knew, you know, and was just like ashamed or embarrassed or whatever. But then when I found out she had actually called and got the information before I did, it made me feel even worse because I was like, why wouldn't you
share the information
with me? You know what I'm saying? Or why wouldn't you? And so they created a whole whirlwind of issues because on one part I'm thinking, you know, did she know I wasn't the father this whole time? Or, you know, is this just a total shock to everybody? You know what I mean? And so they created a mixed emotional feelings. You know what I'm saying? And it killed our friendship at the time.
Understandably so. I think a lot of people can relate to what you're saying about how that pretty much destroyed you all's friendship. Mm-hmm. What impact did it have on your relationship with little Myron?
You know, in the beginning, it didn't really, because he was still young. He was unaware of anything that was going on, and I wanted it like that, you know. So even though me and her, we wasn't necessarily saying eye to eye because I truly didn't believe anything she said to me at that time, you know, respectfully so, right? Because I've been thinking this, you know, 4.5 years, and then I find out a whole human being is not mine, you know. So I had no reason to. I still tried to respect her, but I didn't have a reason to trust her or believe anything she said. So in the beginning, it was I would say normal as far as the relationship I had with him. It started to become abnormal because as weeks passed, like her nor her mom had even like really reached out to, I don't know, you know, like I can't say I required sympathy, but it was like no kind of, hey, you all right, or I know this got to be tough for you. It was almost as if everything just kept going for them, you know. And so,
do you believe she and her mom knew that he was not your child, or there was a possibility he was not your child? And I'm talking about before the phone call.
Yeah, before the phone call. Actually, no, I don't. Okay. I didn't. But then it was conversations after we had found out, and he's not mine, and that's a fact. It was like she couldn't even.
The legal process was brutal. The court dismissed his private DNA test. He had to take another, this time court-ordered. The results didn't change. Yet, the judge didn't free him. She ruled from a place she called morality, declaring Myron legally responsible because no other man had stepped forward. The law had spoken. Even without blood, he would remain the father in the eyes of the state.
Agreed to see the point, like, you didn't think it was nobody possible? And so after talking to several older women and friends and relatives and most females or most women, I came to the conclusion, all said the same thing. It's like, if there's a chance that you might have slept with somebody else in the time you conceived, that you know. You might not want it to be this guy's or whatever, but you know, and she couldn't even admit that.
Oh, wow.
So, and it took years for her to finally, for it to click to her. She was like, well, you know, I always knew it was yours. And like, you didn't, because they didn't end up being the case. But the fact that she couldn't really admit that like early on or see that, it created even more, you know, like, I don't think I was asking for an apology, but just more like, come on, you didn't think it was somebody else.
Empathy.
Yeah, like. Right?
Like you can relate to this, put yourself in my shoes type situation. Empathy. Yeah. All right. Did we ever find out who the dad was?
From what I was told, yes.
All right.
Because it wasn't like, you know, I don't think it was a situation of she had a multitude of people it wasn't that. It was just not wanting to believe or come to the realization that the other person that you were with at the time is technically the father.
Right.
And so I think it took a while, and then once she found out, I think he's been in the picture, or he's been in and out of the picture, but he never did anything you know, to help with the situation that was at hand that was brought about by court.
Okay, so let's talk about court a little bit. You were on child support at the time that you found out through DNA testing that this was not your child, and you petitioned the court. Like, what happened? Like, how did that actually come about?
So, again, as I stated earlier, I only wanted to be off of child support. You know, I had no intentions of not being in his life or any of that. I just, like I said, and so that in itself creates hostility, right? So
Hostility between you and mom.
me and mom.
All
And
right.
so because I'm thinking we're on the same page as far as like, look, I just want to be off child support. We thought it was that simple. Like, she can just go take me off child support, whatever. No.
She was in agreement to take you out child support.
Initially.
Oh, okay. So it changed at some point.
Because the courts let us know that it don't work like that.
Oh, wow. Okay. So let's talk about that.
Yeah.
She's in agreement to take you off of child support. Do you all fill out any papers to agree?
Well,
Years passed. Myron paid support faithfully. Month after month, year after year, money left his pocket for a child that wasn't his. The emotional toll was worse than the financial one. Court battles drained him. Attorneys' fees piled up. The system was unrelenting, and Myron felt trapped in a cycle with no escape.
her part was kind of ended fast because the state let her know I had signed the announcement of paternity.
Right.
So the state of Texas, child support, we don't care if he ain't. That's really what it boils down to, right? We don't care. So before the child support step happened, I had to challenge the announcement of paternity.
Okay, so let's put a pin drop about court. Let's focus on the acknowledgement of paternity for a minute. So you were told you had to challenge it. What did that process look like?
So the process is you basically, you have to have some type of proof, which was the DNA test. However, I hadn't taken the DNA test at that time through the courts. And so my DNA test, or our DNA test that we pay for on our own, technically wasn't admissible in court.
Because it wasn't court ordered.
Because it wasn't court ordered. And so in the mix of challenging the announcement of paternity, you at the time, I don't know the law exactly, but at that time you had 5 years. And so the state thought that my 5 years were up because by this time, Lil Myron is 5. However, I didn't sign the announcement of paternity until he was 1. So that means I still would have had another year, an additional year left. And so they realized that, so they made me take a court-ordered DNA test. So that way it could be on record that so the results didn't change.
All right, so you challenged the acknowledgement, realized you still had time within the legal realm. You did what you were supposed to do with the court-ordered DNA test. Everything is good, right? You're out child support.
Nope.
That's not what happened.
That's not what happened.
What happened?
So the judge at the time, and I don't remember her name, it's been so long, but she made what she considered a moral decision.
She actually told you that?
Yeah, she said it. Like, her decision was that because I had been in his life and no one else was coming in the courtroom basically saying that they was the father, that she felt like that I was morally responsible, pretty much. I don't know her exact words verbatim, but it was around the realms of until she had somebody come in the courtroom to say that they was the father, that I was legally still gonna be responsible. Although legally I had did everything, my attorney had proven my case.
Wow.
And so he was about, I want to say this was around 2000, this was at the end of 2009. And so what she did was I think it's the word that's used, abate. She abated my child support. So people have to understand, you have child support and you have medical support.
Right.
And so they the same thing, but they totally different. Like, you owe this in child support, medical support has its own interest.
Right,
whatever,
right. It just, when it lump sums, it comes out in one.
It comes out in one.
Got you.
Right. So she abated my child support, and at that time, I don't know, let's say I was paying $250 a month. I don't know. It wasn't an extreme amount. But she left me to pay medical support up until just last month.
To your knowledge, in speaking with your attorney, is that even legal?
I don't I don't know. I don't know. It has to be because they made me do it.
Wow.
And so, you know, the funny thing about it is that, you know, some people would say, well, how much is it? It's like, it don't matter. Like, because, you know, the way I look
How
at it
much is what, the health
like, how
insurance?
much did you, yeah. It's like, I think it's $25, $30 a month, you know. But imagine having to give somebody that you don't know.
For 13 long years, Myron carried this burden. His other children grew, needing his time and resources. Still, the court order stood. Only when the boy turned 18 did the payments finally stop. Myron received a termination letter. It was a relief, but also a bitter reminder. He had given 18 years of his life to a lie he never asked to live.
You know, $30 out your money every month for 14 years. It might not add up to nothing but $300-$400 a year. But when you times that over 10, 11, 12 years, you know, that could have been money anybody could have used. My biological kids could have needed it. I mean, I could have needed it. And so I'm not upset necessarily about the financial part of it because I had to adapt. But it's just people don't know that the ideal of the acknowledgement of paternity can be a very confusing thing. So
And powerful, sounds like. Yeah.
So I would suggest to men to first off, don't sign one unless you have a DNA test.
Okay.
First.
All right.
That's what I would say.
That's some good advice.
You know, that's probably the biggest thing. And you know, be careful, be mindful of, you know, who you sleep with, you know, protect yourself, all of that good stuff. You know, but a kid is a beautiful thing. And, you know, and so to be a man and be in a situation where you take care of one for almost 5 years and find out that it's not yours, to just do something to you. That's one emotion in itself. Like I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy. But then to have to still be financially responsible for that child for the amount of time that I was.
And how much time are we talking about exactly?
I know he was, let's say 5 when we started going to court. He just turned 18. So at least about 13 years. And that's not including the child support that I was paying, you know, when I thought he was mine.
Right.
You know, and so those numbers add up, you know, and I'm on child support for my other kids too. I don't complain about it. It's not the child support, it's just the idea those are my kids.
Right.
And so I'm responsible for them. And so to be in a situation to where you could literally, legally be locked up or jailed because of child support or lack of, you know, what if I'd fell off and not been able to work? You know, they could really still come after me. I doubt they probably would have, but I don't know, you know. And so, yeah.
So about you say he turned 18. Has he graduated high school?
I'm not aware of that.
Okay, all right. So you all don't have any type of communication or anything, you and the child?
Me and the child, no. I talked to his mom maybe about 6 months ago. With my middle son and little Myra ended up running in the same track meet, but they don't unaware of it.
Right.
And I ran into her like at a red light or something, and she. You know, there's no hostility between me and her now. You know,
time has passed.
Time has passed.
Yeah.
You know, and I don't have any the animosity I may have had years ago against. Like I have none at all. I just feel like my story is something people should hear because you know it changed my life financially for sure. You know.
How so? I know you mentioned you could have used that money for yourself, and then you had other kids. How many kids do you have now?
3.
All right. And how many were in existence at that time?
2.
2. Okay. And 2 in addition to little Myron, right?
So that would have been 3.
3. Okay.
Right.
I follow you.
Right.
Yeah. So you said that it changed your life financially?
Well, you know, and I'm not saying financial because of the child support per se. I'm saying like the court fees, the attorneys, the missing work. I went to court for 2 years straight every 3 months. Literally, I was going to court every 3 months, and that's not including my other kids were small at the time too. So I have to deal with their mothers too. You know, so it's nothing against the moms, right? I'm dealing with this child support system, and like I say, for 2 of them, I show up in court like it's nothing. You know,
Because they were your
because they
children,
mine.
yeah.
So whether or not I'm right or wrong, I have to deal with those consequences. You know, but you know, in the case with you know, the one that's not mine, you know, mentally they just play with you. You know, I didn't really realize until I got that withholding order.
Looking back, Myron accepts his share of responsibility. He admits he should have listened, should have taken the test sooner, should have been cautious before signing. But the pain remains. To raise a child, love him as your own, and then be forced by law to continue paying. This is the cruel twist of his story.
The termination. That's when it clicked. It was like, he did this for 18 years.
What is the withholding order of termination that you're referring to?
So the same way they send, it's called an IWO, an income withholding order.
Okay.
The same way they send it to your job to tell them to take $500 a month from you, $250 every 2 weeks or whatever. Well, this time my box had termination.
Okay.
So it was them terminating my child support order for them to keep taking money from me for him.
For the health insurance?
For the health insurance.
Okay.
Right.
Wow.
So,
after 13 years?
Yeah. So that's what kind of like hit home for me. That's when the light bulb went out. Like, you really went through this, and
right.
So that's what we had.
So you gave people some great advice in terms of not signing the acknowledgement of paternity, using protection, all those type of things. In hindsight, now that you're sitting here discussing it, what are some things that you take accountability for and say you would have done different?
First, I was just being responsible to start off. You know,
what do you mean by being responsible?
I should have never been in a position to where, you know, a woman that I was sleeping with, child is not mine. You know, whether you look at that as being married or you look at that as being in a committed relationship, whichever way they fit. That's probably the first thing. And then I'm accountable for not doing some of the smart things that I would tell any man to do right now.
Which is what?
Which is
listen to the grandmother when she say go get a DNA test.
You know, listen and you know, we humans, right? So we emotional. So sometimes you can get attached to a kid real fast and you're like, I don't want to do this. Because it might be a week or 2 weeks, but then you end up hurting yourself and that child, you know, in the long run. I don't think Lil Myron suffered per se, like, because like I say, he was unaware of it for years. But in the long run, he probably has at some point, like, where is he at? Or why he's not around? And, you know, even for his mom to have to tell him or me to have to tell him or whatever. So just being accountable and responsible and you know, safe. Like I say, that's the biggest thing, because when you're not responsible, you do stuff like have unprotected sex, or you have many women, different, you know, many different partners, and you're not, you know, protecting yourself, and so you end up with the possibility of a child not being yours because you don't know what this other woman's doing, but you're doing it too. You know what I mean? So, like I said, I don't bash women at all for those kind of situations. You know, because I don't think in my situation that it was like that. Like she was trying to set me up for it. I don't think it was that. Even though some cases they'll do it. I don't care. I think it's yours. I think it's yours. I think it's yours. But my case wasn't like that.
Right.
You know, so.
So let me ask you, I have to ask because it is playing in the back of my head. Did you go back to your grandmother and family members and apologize to them or to tell them you were right or anything like that?
I have. I didn't really, I have, because, you know, it's really funny because, you know, I got a lot of I told you so's. You know, and not like in no
demeaning
way.
Okay.
You know, it's just like I knew it. But they head of yours, you know, whatever it is, you know. So, you know, I have. So it turned out to be better than what it started off. I should say that.
That's good. Yeah. Emotionally today, how are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So
today, Myron speaks without anger, but with hard-earned wisdom. His story is a warning to others. Don't sign blindly, protect yourself, and always seek the truth. Because once the system locks you in, it may never let you go.